All right, we are live on Facebook, everyone. No pressure. Awesome. All right, well, I will officially kick things off here. Thank you all for joining again. Appreciate all of the CMAC members who are here, Debbie, Angelica, Don, and Rochelle, Franklin in the house. Really appreciate it. You know, we are through challenging times right now, especially when it comes to production and media production. I think a lot of us had a lot of question marks when, you know, the closures started happening and things started closing, and those of us who work in media and CMAC members as well, like, what does this mean? How, you know, how are we going to go about our day to day with those of us, especially who do episodic series, web series, short films, interviews with people. I mean, a lot of this depends on interaction with people, right? And being around people. So I think what's going to be great with this discussion today is we're going to hear from those of you who are doing productions now and still finding ways to accomplish that, whether it's virtually, doing recordings via Zoom, or even just having a camera set up, whether it's your cell phone or in some cases CMAC equipment, because we've now been able to do checkouts on a limited basis. So we want to hear from you, and those of you who are joining on Facebook and who want to join on the link here, please feel free to do so and join the conversation. But first, I want to jump to Angelica. Thank you again for being here. And yeah, I know right before this started, the closures, you had sent a short film, Rochambeau. And I know that was something you already had, you just finished it right in time, right? Right before things started, yeah, closing. And it's, from the sounds of it, you're still finding ways to approach production, especially evident with your recent reservations for wanting some equipment. So tell us a little bit about this next production and how you're approaching that. How are you going to accomplish it? What are some things that you've done in the pre-production phase so far with it?
Sure. So Rochambeau finished just under the wire before everything was closing down. That was really lucky for us. Gave me a lot of time to edit because I was in quarantine. And then we still had this idea to do a short film. It was a horror short film called Auditorium 13, which takes place in a movie theater. So we had already started pre-production for that one. And when everything kind of happened, we were a little hesitant to keep going with it. We were scared that, you know, this would halt production completely because for the first couple of weeks, nobody knew what was going on. But we still kind of kept going with like scheduling and, you know, just in case, having everything prepared in case things like turned out better than we thought. But at the end of the day, we realized that this might be our only opportunity. We were planning to do the shoot at the Mania cinemas, which was fully open at the time. And, you know, we had access to that location through my partner. He works there, so he has like the behind the scenes hookup for that. So we were planning to shoot there anyway, but then it closed down completely, which almost seemed like, you know, a silver lining to this was that it was completely closed, which meant that we had full access to the location at this point. And we were looking into kind of like pushing the shoot date just to see like what would be going on. And we started gathering our team. Everything started happening remotely. So we were emailing people, we were contacting people through Instagram, you know, finding a cinematographer, finding a crew, and then casting. All of that was completely remote. We didn't meet with anybody. We didn't, you know, we wanted to just make sure we were safe in that aspect. And then when we did start looking into, you know, okay, I think we can do this safely. When things were kind of starting to reopen, we were like, okay, we can continue with this. So we had a tech scout. Everyone wore masks. Everyone was completely safe. You know, we made sure that we enforced that mask rule just to be, you know, extra cautious. We did a tech scout, we did all the scheduling, and then we finally fully cast our production. And again, all of it's super remote. We asked for people to just send in videos, and we cast that way. But then we're looking at this now, and we have to have a really good plan in place, I think is what we're looking at, because it is important for us to keep producing. And I think looking at like the industry and how they're going about reopening, we just pulled up a bunch of resources. I've been looking at how they're doing things safely on smaller shoots. And it's basically the way that I've scheduled it as a producer is I'm trying to limit the overlap of like extras. If we have any extras, they're all done in one day. If we have any, we're kind of grouping everybody together so that nobody really overlaps if they don't need to. And then everyone's required to wear a mask on our set. We will have temperature checks at the door, hand sanitizer provided. Everyone, even extras, are going to be spaced out in their scenes. Like, we're going to be having them only take off their masks for certain scenes, and all of them are going to be 6 feet away. So if we can do that in a big giant movie theater, we'll have, extras in the background who are lobby guests holding popcorn, but they'll come together. We'll only let people who are quarantined together be in those scenes together, and then 6 feet apart as much as possible. So that's basically where we're going now. I've looked at a lot of resources that show us for, like other companies that this is possible. There are just strict enforcements that need to be in place. And a lot of the people we're working with have already quarantined. So they have no other contact with people. So it's kind of making it a little easier. I think I'm still the only one who, right now I work at Starbucks. So I'm probably the biggest risk at the moment. So everything we're doing is remote. We have a plan in place. That's how we're moving forward, because everyone really wants to create during this time, even though it's such a scary time. It's like we're still itching to make stuff because we all have this free time. We all have ideas. And I think it's just about making a really solid plan and making everybody feel comfortable and safe. And, I'm getting tested this weekend just to be safe. Like my partner's getting tested. We just like to make sure before we go ahead and meet people in public that, we're all 100% comfortable. So that's basically our plan right now. And it's working out, So I think that's really where we're going with that.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it sounds like you've really looked in all the details with it too, especially with keeping the safety protocols. And that's a really unique idea, like have people in scenes that are already quarantined together or together in their living situation. So yeah. I think that's really unique. And then, yeah, with the idea of having that distance, and that might impact how you want to shoot things and frame things as well. As much as you want to get that nice close up, physically close to the talent, maybe you can just use that lens that can give you somewhat of that same impact, stuff like that. So that's really cool that you're doing that. And I think hopefully that'll probably bring some inspiration to those who want to do these short scenes or just, short films and like that too. So That's awesome. Keep us posted on that too. Love to hear how it all turns out. And sure. I know some of us who've done production, those of us who assisted with in a different format, but with some of the graduations that just happened, some of us on staff are wearing masks too. Even if you're behind the scenes, you can have all the safety protocol. It's kind of hard when you're talent though. You can't, unless the scene is written that someone's wearing a mask, maybe. But yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. So what I'd like to do next is jump to Don and Roshell to put you on the spot here. Now it looks like I got muted for a second there. We didn't hear you before on your microphone, so hopefully we're good and we can hear you. If not, what we'll do is we'll jump to Debbie, but let's just go and see. Donna Roshell, can you hear us right now? Can you respond to us? Okay.
Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of delay, but we can hear you for sure. Awesome. So, just to give you a little bit of an introduction here, you two have been busy, right? Always making content. I really enjoy seeing what you have on a weekly basis, essentially. You'd have your mini biographies that you do with the animation of Welcome to Fresberg, and your most recent show, Messy and Motivational, which I've actually caught a few episodes myself. I find it to be really insightful and entertaining, especially for those who, are in a relationship and, and adding the context too of, the quarantine as well, people, how things can change with relationships. So tell us a little bit about how you're doing your productions, especially with Messy and Motivational. How are you approaching it? How are things looking? Has much change, really? I know this is kind of the same format you've done pre-COVID, but what are some things that have changed in this respect with your production?
I think probably the biggest thing that's changed is with Fresberg. Fresberg was purely all animation, where with Messy and Motivational, anytime you deal with production, your first 20 to 40 episodes, I don't want to say can be a wash, but you really have to pay attention to what your audience is saying. What do they want to see more of, and see what it morphs into. Like most people don't realize, I mean, you guys know because you've been there since the start. Fresberg really started off more as a anti-bullying kind of things in the neighborhood series until teachers got a hold of it and it morphed into what it is today. For example, with all the social injustice and whatnot that's going on right now and those type of talks. We had our largest viewership this past month in June that we've never seen before with Juneteenth. So basically adjusting to what people want. So when it came to Messy and Motivational, initially we started off fully in animation, but because of our experience as a couple, people just want to see more of us. So now we're literally integrating the live and the animation and just kind of taking it from there.
Nice. Yeah. So, you know, in respect to what you're creating in terms of what people want to see, how do you gauge that? Is that normally just like viewership, or like the kind of like, do you measure the metrics on YouTube? How does that work for you? How do you gauge that?
I mean, if for any producer, and there are multiple apps out there that kind of do the same thing. We use a app called TubeBuddy. So with TubeBuddy, it is free, but if you want deeper insights into your audience, it's about $9.99 a month. There are other apps out there, but with TubeBuddy, it allows you to see, like, for example, if you create your own YouTube channel, it basically measures who's looking for your topic, and if you put it out online, how well would you do in search? So you might think, hey, cheating stories for girls is a great, like, yeah, there's thousands of people looking for that daily, but if you create a cheating stories for girls and you don't have what we call internet authority, nobody's ever going to see it. It's going to get buried in the bottom of the internet. So with TubeBuddy and resources like that, honestly, prior to us even turning the camera on, we have to realize that although we have great ideas, our great ideas may not be something that people even want to see. So it's kind of a waste of time for you to create this grand project and put it all together and put it on CMAC, put it online, and nobody really cares because they're not looking for that content. So once again, going back to the Juneteenth example, Juneteenth always did well for us on Fresberg, but nothing compared to what it did this past June because there was a demand for it. Checking Google Trends, being on top of those type of scenarios. We're getting ready to, for example, one of our main productions has been on hiatus since March, where we are getting ready to come back with that again with the Lakers React, because the Lakers are now going into the bubble. There's going to be a big audience for that. So knowing what your first things first, I would always say, know who your audience is, and don't general. I want to reach women. No, I need to reach women of a specific age demographic, potentially of a specific region in the country. You need to drill down into your niche, because people want things customized, personalized as much as possible for you to be able to reach that audience. So start there. And then when it comes to production, I would say probably our biggest challenge, like even right now, we're in a location where we're preparing for production today. When we produce for a week, we do 5 little mini episodes, knowing that we're going to pick 3 of the best 5 for airing on CMAC. So know who you're producing for. Yes, you've got 5 little 10-minute episodes that you're going to release on the internet to see how those do. But when you come back to television, you can't break all that up. You just put the best 3 that work best for television. So when we do those, we don't sit there and just do, we're going to do one this day. No, we knock all 5 out in the same setting. And even now, our next goal is to knock 2 weeks worth of content out, where it's to the point where it's all in the can. Let's get it done, and then we can take it back, not having to sit there. The worst thing you can do, and we've been there before, the worst thing you can do is try to produce this stuff every week. You need to, like, if you look at the Tyler Perrys of the world, I always watch Steve Harvey on a Family Feud. When you watch the Family Feud, think about it. You have a lot of families that have the same clothes on. So even though they're on different episodes, they're doing bulk filming. So you have to get used to, let's get as much as we can done in that day in order to, for example, with Angelica mentioned getting her cast together. If you do that over multiple days, or you need multiple shoots, you might have a cast member that's great today, but comes back tomorrow with a fever. Try to get as much as you can done today, because as we see with COVID, we don't know what tomorrow is bringing.
That's some great advice. Yeah, I think just having things ready to go, backlogged, and just release in a calendar. I mean, that's something we build into our production schedule as well at CMAC. Like, you know, we look into the future, we look at the calendar, and it's like, you know, this week we're going to release this, we're going to have this update. Looking into the future, yeah, because like you said, there's nothing worse than you know, doing it all in the moment, getting an episode done to release that very evening. You know, it's just like getting everything done together in that moment. That's definitely some good advice there. Speaking of, I want to just talk briefly about Messy and Motivational too. I'm really intrigued by the show because it's that advice aspect of it for relationships. And I noticed that in the show, you have the character saying, we have this caller with this question. So tell us a little bit about that. How do you formulate, is that episode formulated around viewers' questions, or is it something you write on your own and then just release it that way? How does that work?
It's a mixture of both. We participate in a lot of online groups, so Facebook groups, Reddit groups, things like that. So people write in, we all kind of, it's a combination of both. Like the more recent episodes with us being more live, to kind of protect the author's anonymity, we try to not give all the details, but it's like we're seeing, I can't come up with half of the things that people are going through in relationships, because I mean, I'm married, I'm taking care of kids, but when it comes to the craziness that is dating today, you've got people going through all kinds of things, and you would think would be, you know, things that you would think would be, well, they're cheating. It's pretty self-explanatory, but people just don't get it. So these are the things that we explore, things that people are more inclined to talk about over the internet than they would face-to-face in a forum.
Definitely. All right. Yeah. And that's something, you know, I think is really captures people's interest in general. And just to have something to look to perhaps find some inspiration, because you never know what people are going through. They might be going through something very similar, and seeing that, you know, can kind of having that connection, like, oh, someone else is going through something like I am. And then, you know, that kind of alleviates some of that stress and that's, you know, whatever they're going through. Well, thank you so much. We're probably going to dial back and go back to you again at some point, but I'd like to move on to Debbie. Debbie, thank you for being here. Thank you for setting up Zoom for the first time, I believe, right? Let's see, we got you unmuted there. I think you'll have to hover over your screen and click unmute. Oh. There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you, Debbie, for joining us. And I think as for you, you haven't been able to do productions as you would like, because a lot of what you do depends on going to events and talking to people at events. And of course, with COVID, a lot of that's been canceled and postponed. But it sounds like you found something to do soon, right? In terms of production, you're going to interview someone. Tell us a little bit about your plan of action and how you're going to approach that production.
Well, it's really interesting how the idea came to me. I got a new primary care physician this year, and he's not just a primary care physician, he also offers concierge services. And when I found out how many of these concierge services he had to offer, and that I didn't even know about it the first few months I was seeing him, I said, we've got to get you on the air. I said, we've got to make the public aware of what it is you have to offer here in Fresno. And the more we talked, I found out he's also a ringside doctor for MMA events, which ties in with my show, Martial Arts Mania. His name is Diego Allende, and he's located in Northeast Fresno, literally just a few blocks north of where I went to high school, Hoover High School. And the difference between, say, an MD and a DO, and I've been looking for a DO, a doctor of osteopathy, for quite some time. I always looked at a DO as holistic medicine, alternative medicine. But what they do is they incorporate the person's lifestyle. They take that into consideration, see what they can do to make them healthy. And with just a few tweaks in the few months that I've been seeing him, I'm amazed at how my health has improved. I was vitamin D deficient. And one of the things I learned from him is you have to take vitamin K in conjunction with vitamin D in order for the vitamin D to be absorbed into your system. I mean, just little tweaks like that. And the last time I saw him, he measured my T4, my thyroid, and it was just slightly off. And he looked at me and he says, "What kind of multivitamins are you taking?" And I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to be taking multivitamins too?" And started taking multivitamins, and my T4 is back to normal. Everything is looking good. I'm feeling better. Even my other doctors, I see an ophthalmologist, Dr. Thomas Shute, and my dentist, Dr. Byron Reinchest. The last time I saw both of them, they both commented. They looked at me and they said, "You look good." You know, it's just, I guess I'm looking healthier since I've been seeing Dr. Allende. But he is such a plethora of information. I think that we may end up getting a few shows out of him, and who knows, we may even have to turn it into a show called Dr. D and Debbie or something, because I foresee this being more information than what we could contain in just one or two shows.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the fact that you've taken something that you've dealt with personally with your health and wanting to share that information, I think is what we're all about, you know, with members finding something interesting or something that impacts them personally. And that's what I think you've always done with your shows, whether it be Martial Arts Mania, Out and About with Debbie Goodman, where you're covering these events. You know, it's really raising awareness of what's going on out there in terms of events, in terms of who's out there involved in the martial arts scene, especially locally as well. You bringing in someone like Don the Dragon Wilson, who is a Hollywood star in the martial arts world and, you know, world famous kickboxer. So you bringing him to Fresno, making it all local. And it makes me kind of sad to see that, like, events like we see on the screen right now, we can't have those right now. But, you know, with things like Zoom and even with practicing safe production, you know, operations, you can still get things done. So in terms of your production you're going to be doing, your plan is to check out a camera, microphone, and what other things are you taking into account? Obviously, you want to be safe, you know, with, you know, perhaps wearing a mask. Are you going to be doing that? Are you going to do it at an office, outdoors? How are you going to be conducting this particular interview that you have planned?
I'm probably going to be in one of the safest situations. My doctor has seen me on a regular basis since I started with him. And again, I don't go to him because I'm sick. I go to him to stay healthy so that I don't get sick in the first place. So I'm going to follow his protocol, whatever he wants to do. If he wants us to wear masks during the interview, that's fine. We've already discussed what we're going to do for social distancing. But you have to remember, this guy's like, had his hands on my throat recently. You know, he's checking my thyroid. So, you know, he's one of the few people that's allowed to touch me during the pandemic.
yeah, definitely. I mean, taking into account that you've interacted with someone already, similar to what Angelica was talking about with, you know, people being around each other already. They know their status. They know who they've been around. So just, you know, doing that in a very, you know, conscious way, understand, like, I've seen this person, you know, you've done all the precautions. So that's good to hear. And hopefully that'll bring some inspiration. You know, I definitely recommend for those who are in their own household, if you can find ways to pull people in to be a part of your production, whether it's helping you set up a camera for an interview, someone that you've seen often, that you interact with often, and you're aware of their status and who they've been around. It's still possible. You can still do it. And, you know, in your case, you're going to check out a camera from CMAC to do this. We have safe practices in terms of sanitizing the equipment, making sure it's good to go before members get it, and we make sure there's enough time frame for that. So I think you're perfectly fine in doing that. But another thing I'd like to mention too is that we have, you may have ways to do production just with, a smartphone. If you have that smartphone, if you have a way to set up your camera in that respect, you can do that. You can install things like Zoom on your phone, record interviews that way. So there's a lot of unique approaches you can have in terms of doing productions like this. So what I'd like to do at this point now is oh yeah, go ahead, Debbie. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, one of the things I did do was I ordered my own windscreens to use on the microphones that I will dispose of when we get through using them. But I wanted to use some that hadn't been used by anyone else and that are disposable. I'm taking every precaution I can.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because you have those microphones clipped on, to people you're interviewing, and they're speaking right into them. So just being able to have the benefit of having those on hand to dispose of them, for sure, that's great. And as far as CMAC goes, we have those as well. So we make sure that they're good to go and clean as well. But if you want, just taking that extra step, if you want to do that, by all means, we encourage you to find any extra ways to be safe. So yeah, I just like to go around here for CMAC's staff. If we have any, actually, let's talk, Terry, if you don't mind, let me put you on the spot. Can you go a little bit into sanitizing practices for camera equipment, a little bit of how recommendations, if you will, of what's best to make sure things are clean, and we're following what your suggestions are as well at CMAC, but let the viewers know a little bit what exactly that entails.
Okay, well, it's doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to be healthy and safe with the equipment. If you aren't using the equipment for 72 hours, you just let it sit. You don't have to do anything to it. And that's basically what we call quarantining. And that's what CMAC is doing, because we're not turning around the equipment that fast. But let's say the most important thing is to worry about is your microphone screen, because that's the closest to the person's mouth that gets all the vapors, the droplets that can be contagious. So you might take a little alcohol, 70% alcohol with you, isopropyl you get from, the drugstore, and dip it in that and let it set for about 10 minutes, because it takes a little bit of time for the alcohol to deteriorate the virus. The virus isn't a living thing, it's a protein, and it deteriorates. So you need to wipe it down and wipe it off, and alcohol is the best thing for it. Obviously, it's going to fade your equipment and degrade your equipment eventually. So if you can just quarantine something, that would be the best practice. Taking alcohol wipes with you and wiping your equipment down it will help. And to take hand wipes also that you can use, and/or the hand lotion that you can have that has alcohol in it too. And those are the best practices. Alcohol is the best thing right there, but just know that you still have to wait a while before you start using the equipment. Even if you've wiped it down with alcohol, wait at least 10 minutes before anybody else takes it or uses it. And the microphone's the most sensitive thing because that'll be the closest to the person that's talking. And that's the big thing to be worried about. But if you just follow safe practices, you wear a mask. Obviously, if you're interviewing somebody, stay back, use the zoom lens to get in closer, and to, when they aren't on camera, to have them wear a mask too. That's very important. But I do some live stuff. I found a program called vMix, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit at the appropriate time, Johnny, about doing things completely remote, and the project that I worked on and project that I am going to be working on. And when you're ready for that, let me know.
Sounds good, Terry. Thank you for the information. I think for me, at least, I take that for granted. When I use Clorox wipes and things to disinfect, I just kind of like go nuts with it. I just like wipe things down. If a little of the residue's behind, I'm like, oh, whatever, it's doing its thing. It's killing the germs. But yeah, especially when you're using an electronic equipment, things like that, you got to be careful because of the degradation. And that's something I'm not really conscious until we start talking about this. That's when I really started thinking like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't douse, this liquid on like even my home stuff, like.
Yes, and you shouldn't spray anything into anything electronic like a screen. You should always spray it on a cloth and then wipe it down, because the moisture can destroy. Electricity and moisture don't go together very well. So you want to make sure you aren't spraying right into your ports, your microphones, or your lenses, and things like that directly. Always put it on a cloth and wipe it.
That makes sense for sure. Well, thank you, Terry. I appreciate that information. So I'd like to go back now to Angelica, you know, and talking about your production in particular. How are you going to be handling audio? And I know you said you were going to have that distance with some of the talent being kind of far away and having that aspect of it. But in terms of audio, how are you handling that? Are you going to be hiding lav mics, for example, for these short scenes? Are you going to use a boom pole? Because I know boom pole with some equipment that's available, the direction of the mic can pick up quite, especially with the shotgun mic, can really pick up from a distance too. So that might be beneficial as well. Are you going to be using something like that?
So luckily, the short film that we have started, it doesn't have a lot of dialogue. So it's more of a slow, scary burn, kind of like The Shining. So it's a lot more of like the slow hallway push-ins and, you know, that sort of thing. And not a lot of dialogue at all. So there's a few scenes where we will require audio. And for those, we are planning to do lav mics. That way we won't have to be super close to them. And we're doing a lot of wide shots, which also keeps the crew kind of far away. So we're doing a lot of the lav mics. But then on the first day, I think we scheduled a whole tech scout or a whole tech day where we will be using a boom pole to just gather all of that audio, like the room sound, like all of the sound effects that we need. And that'll just be us, like the crew will be there for that. None of the talent will be there for that because we can gather that ourselves without, you know, having them, you know, be around for longer than they need to. So we're really trying to schedule. And that's like my main tip for everyone is if you're going to be doing a production, scheduling is key. And I think a lot of people just want to go on set and kind of wing it, but you really can't do that right now. So we're basically sectioning off people. So by day 2, there will be no more extras on set. By day 3, there's only 2 people on set. One is a monster character. And luckily the costume for the monster includes a mask. So already we've limited that whole exposure. So we've kind of sort of figured everything out as much as we possibly can. And when we do have a scene where they're talking, there's going to be lav mics involved and people can stand kind of far apart. But it never exceeds more than 3 people. So with that, we're being as careful as possible and definitely going to do the lav mics. And we'll have sort of like if one person has a lav mic for that day and we need another scene, we'll only use that same lav mic, but we're definitely planning on sanitizing. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Terry, because I was actually going to send some emails to you guys asking what we should do in between days because we are doing a 4-day shoot. So we will have that equipment for a few days. So we want to make sure we're, you know, sanitizing it correctly in between if we need to, and then sectioning off equipment that's used for certain characters so that no one else touches it. So a lav mic used for one person will only be used by that person. So that's kind of what we're doing as far as audio. So luckily it's not a super audio heavy production. That was just by accident, just by the way that it was written. So we got pretty lucky there.
Well, that really worked out there. That's awesome. And that might be, you know, just some ideas for viewers out there too. You know, if you haven't come up with a concept, you're just itching to get a production out and you've been halted by doing so for the pandemic. You know, maybe write something that involves things like that distance that, you know, you can write the story around that or adjust a story that is existing to fit that. So that's great. Yeah. And yeah, that's when really wireless systems really come into play too and become really handy. So you don't have to have that direct connection, mic people up, maybe hand them the mic pack on the table or put on the table, walk away, say, there's your mic pack, you can put it on, that sort of stuff. So great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the floor to a staff. And Kyle, if you have any questions for any of our participants here. Yeah.
I had a question for the Franklins. I know you do both animated and live action production all the time. I was just curious, especially since working from home or the pandemic, which has been easier for you to do totally on your own or remotely?
I think, well, for me anyway, probably for the both of us, I think working from home and being out maybe at like CMAC, it's kind of an even split, I guess you could say, because at home we have to deal with our kids, of course, coming in and out of the room, you know, wanting to see what we're doing or just making noise in general. And then, of course, on the flip side, being at CMAC, it's much easier. It's quiet. We don't have to tell people to get out, stop knocking. No, you can't have any cereal. We don't, you know, have to say things like that. So it's both of it has its perks where we're at home, we're in our own space, we're more comfortable. We don't have to, you know, transfer things back and forth from the station or at home or things like that. So for me, it's an even split. Yeah, we're making it work during this pandemic. So we're trying to get everything that we need together, microphones, lighting, cameras, you know, we're kind of stocking up on those things on our own. So if something like this does ever happen again, you know, we're ready to go. We're just, you know, set for the future. So
yeah, like we created a little box. So it's just basic. We can't get what we want out of the recording room there at CMAC. So I literally created a box, insulated the box, and put our microphone inside the box to try to get it as crisp as possible. I mean, I think if you're a producer, look around your city. As we were driving in, we wanted something to eat. If you look at the restaurants now, all the restaurants, although it may not be the greatest, they've got canopies outside, they've got tents outside, you know, you can eat outside. So if you are a creator, you have to create alternatives to get your production done. So we're just coming up with alternatives. So hands down, one of my favorite shows on TV is The Blacklist. And with The Blacklist, in order for them to get their season finale, they took a combination of footage they had already shot before the finale ended and animated the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. So with the animation side of it, because you may not see it in me, I loathe being on the camera. If you gave me my choice, I'd be behind the scenes every time. I just do it because of needing talent. So animation, it will always be my baby because I don't need to rent a theater. I don't need to go to anybody's home. We just come up with the concepts in our minds. We create the animation, the scenes behind the scenes, and now you don't have to deal, especially talent-wise, you don't have to deal with the shyness of being physically seen. It's just, hey, record this audio. If you mess up the audio, don't worry. We'll edit it again. You're just talking. Just be natural. So the animation is always a preference for getting the project done, although the animation is a beast in post-production, if that makes total sense. So for example, when you see the characters move, that's a part of the process, but literally when we do animation, I have to go through and scrub the audio just to make sure that the lips of the characters match everything that's said. So just little things like that are just insane behind the scenes, but when you kind of look at things overall, trying to get somebody to get a scene done live on set versus me having to scrub post-production, it still all kind of balances out. So you kind of pick your poison when it comes to production.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I really admire all the work you two do. You're very prolific in your output, which is always exciting.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I had a question for Debbie. Debbie, I know it can be tough. Johnny mentioned in your format, you're often going to locations. I want to know once it's safe to go places again, whether there's a vaccine or something. What's the first, or who, aside from the doctor that you'll be partnering with, where would you go and who would you interview first? If where would you go next?
Well, I've been invited to a stable in Southern California Tawny McClure, she's the daughter of Doug McClure, a famous actor from back like in the 60s, 70s. He was on a popular TV series back in the 60s called The Virginian. He played a character named Trampus. I was 8 years old and I had a crush on the man. But Tawny and I became friends through Facebook because she was in a movie with Dawn the Dragon Wilson. So that's how I introduced myself to her. I said, you know, Dawn and I are sitting here watching a movie that you guys made, and she is super friendly. She is so nice. So we've kind of been back and forth, and I finally said, hey, you know, can I come down and interview you? I mean, what a great person to interview, you know, about basically what was it like growing up in Hollywood, and we're both horsewomen, and she's a martial artist, and all these things. So one of the places I'd really like to go, because Dragon Fest was canceled this year, which is one of my big ones. You know, love to go to Dragon Fest. So I'd really like to go down to Tawny McClure's and interview her and film her horses. She has a particular breed down there. She's got Friesians. They're warm bloods. They're large horses. She does what's called dressage. She was actually in the movie Legally Blonde, the first one, where she plays the mother when Reese Witherspoon is in the scene in the swimming pool where her dad says, honey, you know, you're not a law student. Law students are, you know, boring and ugly, and you know, and Tawny McClure's the mother. I've been really fortunate. CMAC has opened doors for me that I otherwise would not have been able to get through. I have a cousin that grew up in the Glendale area, and she lived in Studio City. And one time when I made a trip down there, you know, because I was trying to break into Hollywood, I wanted to be a writer. And she says, kid, she says, when you're good enough, Hollywood comes looking for you. And it happened. You know, I mean, I started my martial arts Mania show, and word got around. I get a phone call from a producer, James Wilson, says, I'm making a movie called The Martial Arts Kid. Would you like to come down and interview my stars in my movie? And I'm like, whoa, yeah. And so, yeah, I've got to say that CMAC has opened doors for me. I've met some of the most interesting people, including you know, the staff at CMAC. And I've learned so much. So, quite frankly, I'm dying for CMAC to be opened up again so I can get back down there and work on my projects and see my people again.
Definitely, yeah. We're looking forward to seeing everyone again once it's safe to do so, Debbie. So thank you. So we're approaching the hour, the 1 o'clock hour. And so what I'd like to do is just do one final you know, or actually, excuse me, I think we have one more question, and then we'll go around and we'll let everyone know where your content can be found and how you can be reached if you'd like to connect with others as well. So I think, Kyle, you have a final question, I believe.
Yeah, I just had one more question. You know, Debbie, you mentioned writing screenplays and stuff, and Angelica, you have made some short films. I was just curious if anyone has been writing, you know, using their time to write any projects to get started. I see on Twitter there's some people that I follow, and they're like, man, I'm just burnt out. I can't bring myself to write. And some people are like, I'm enjoying this time staying mostly at home and getting to write. I was just curious if anyone has any thoughts on that. Angelica, Debbie, Franklin's. Yeah, just curious how your writing process has been.
It's what keeps me from going crazy. I got too much time on my hands right now, and so the mind is just constantly going. I got to get a lot of my stuff down on paper. I wanted to start shooting an idea I had for kind of a modern day Western about girls running for rodeo queen, and the main character was the horse trainer who kind of been around town in more ways than one for a long time. And yeah, it's almost got the flavor of the old show Dallas. You know, you guys are too young to remember, but that was hot when I was growing up. And I wanted to start shooting, and of course that's about the time everything shut down. But yeah, you just kind of think of things. I need to get stuff down on paper and just start printing it. I still do it the old-fashioned way. I want it printed out, send it in, get it copyrighted, and go from there.
Well, so to answer that, I just have, yes, we've been writing. I think what happened in the beginning was there was so much free time. I did go back to work eventually, but me and my partner, we started a production company called Anthophila Productions. And so what we do is we basically just come up with ideas. And so because we're independent, because we don't have a budget, we always like to look for the, like as a producer, like how easy is this to produce, like limited characters, access to locations that we already have. So I think, what is that saying? It's like confinement or constraints breed creativity. I think that's really where we are right now. So like, what can we do even during this quarantine with one character or two characters max in our house, out in a field? Like, what stories can we tell that way? And so we've come up with so many ideas. So after this is done, like we've already started writing some of them. I've been writing a feature length, which was supposed to be a short film, but it turned into a feature length. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. I tend to do way too much research. So, but this is has been really nice for us to kind of have that moment to say when this is all done, what really matters to us is this production company is producing short films. And right now we don't have any money. So what can we do? So really that's what we're focused on, is lining up the next few projects. And now that we know what our constraints are, we're going to try to work within those. So that's what we're doing right now, writing a lot of scripts, having a lot of ideas. And this one was more ambitious. It was already rolling. So we decided to continue with it just to, see if we can make it work. And luckily it's working out. I don't know how, but it is. So we're just looking at the next one being a lot easier and a lot smaller and a lot more doable within the constraints that we're facing. So yeah, we're definitely writing. So.
Yeah, we're writing. Well, we're beginning to a little bit, mainly on the relationship level. People always ask us, about relationships and sustaining healthy relationships, or how to get to that healthy relationship piece in their lives. So we're kind of bouncing off of Messy and Motivational and beginning to write. Hopefully in the future, a nice little book, like a relationship guide for couples, to just kind of know each other and grow together and do whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish in the relationship. People come to us all the time. We just celebrated 21 years of marriage yesterday. So, we're always, thank you. We're always getting asked questions, and how do you guys do this, and how do you guys stay this way, or what do you do to make this work? So we are writing, and every single day is something new. You think you know things about relationships because you've been in one for so long, and there's always something new. So yeah, we're definitely doing some writing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I was just curious how everyone here is doing.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. The Franklins, Angelica, Debbie, we really appreciate your time today joining us, telling us how you're doing your productions, how you're staying creative. And our hope is that members will find inspiration in this, find ways to tackle a project that they've been wanting to do for a long time, or start something new. It's a perfect time to be creative. Those of us who have to, sort of work from home and be in this situation. So yeah, we'd love to see that. And we also are here for help too. So we also are providing, connecting with us, opportunities for that, virtual consultations, if you want to do that through Zoom or phone call even. I have a Google phone number set up so that I can interact and talk to members as well. So please email, call us if you want to if you need equipment, for example. Maybe you just don't need like a camera, but you need a microphone for something to record at home. Let us know. We're there for you. And one last thing I'd like to say too is offer those who have attended today If you'd like anyone to check out your content, where would they go? Website, however you would like to do that. So Debbie, would you like to offer that as maybe perhaps volunteer opportunities in the future for others? If they can reach out to you, what's the best way to do so? And we'll end with that.
Well, I could always use some help. I like to have somebody behind the camera. They don't have to be creative. They just have to make sure everything is running, make sure the audio is clear, make sure we've got audio, keep an eye on the battery, keep an eye on, you know, how much space we still have on the SD card, whatever.
What's the best way to get a hold of you, Debbie?
You can email me.
Cool.
Through, or you know what, go on to Facebook and like my Martial Arts Mania page.
Cool. And people can see your videos there?
They can see my videos, my photos of it's, you know, years ago when I started taking martial arts, the faces on the magazines were Benny the Jet Urquidez, Donnie Dragon Wilson, James Liu, Cynthia Rothrock, Bill Superfoot Wallace. I never dreamed I would even meet one of these people. And now they're friends of mine.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible journey. I wish that I had this opportunity 30 years ago when I started taking martial arts. I mean, it's just, it just amazes me. So thank you again, CMAC. I'm so glad you're here in Fresno.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Franklin's, what's the best way to get a hold of you or check out your videos?
You can find us, or you can, if anyone wants to reach us, fresbergcartoon@gmail.com. I think Don is typing it in the chat also. You can find the Messy and Motivational show on YouTube. Just type in Messy and Motivational. Fresberg is also on YouTube, Fresberg Cartoon on YouTube. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Fresberg Cartoon is also on Facebook. We haven't decided if we're going to make a Messy and Motivational page for Facebook or not, but Fresberg is definitely on Facebook. You can find Messy and Motivational and Fresberg on Twitter and Instagram. Just type the name in and it'll pop right up. And we're also looking for future voiceovers or voiceover talent for Fresberg Cartoon. So in the future, when COVID things start to relax a little bit more, and we're able to come back into the CMAC studios, we'll be looking for extra voiceover talent for Fresberg Cartoon. So look out there
cool.
for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can pretty much find, you can pretty much find us on any social media platform using the hashtag Fresberg Cartoon or hashtag Messy Motivate. We put both of those in the chat, so we always tag our videos and everything online. And if you connect with us on for example, YouTube, you can just get our About Us page, and that'll send you directly to us.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And Angelica, how would people see your films or get a hold of you if they wanted to?
Yeah, so our production company name is Anthophyla Productions. It's kind of hard, so hopefully you can type that in the message thing. But we're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So Anthophyla Productions was the company we started. And our short film Rochambeau is up. You can see a little behind the scenes video of us creating a makeshift dolly out of a cart and a bag of hay that was in my trunk for some reason. So there's some fun content on there. We're hoping to do some video essays soon. So Anthophyla Productions is our Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. So
awesome, very cool.
Great, thank you. Okay, and we are now at 1 o'clock. I just want to briefly mention that members can take our survey, cmac.tv/survey. Fill that out, and when you do, you'll be entered to win a variety of prizes, including an SD card, some CMAC swag, and a 2 terabyte hard drive. So make sure to include your email at the end of the survey when you take it. Again, cmac.tv/survey. We're going to be wrapping up that survey in probably like another week or two, closing it off. But yeah, we just want to encourage all of our members to take that survey so we can better serve you. We can hear your thoughts, things that so we can provide for our members as well. So thank you again for everyone. Appreciate it. This meeting this Zoom meeting will be up on our Facebook page. So if you ever want to check it out again, share it, feel free to do so. I think we got a lot of great information out today. So thank you again, everyone. Continue to be safe. Check out social medias and check our newsletter too for all the latest on CMAC and what we're doing. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day and weekend, and we'll be in touch. So see you later, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.